Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Farhah Binti Rizal.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nurul Farhana Binti Ibrahim.
Hi, my name is Nuriza Nadhirah Binti Abdul Razak.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nashrul bin Ahmad Suhaimi.
Hi, my name is Amira binti Mamat.
I'm going to briefly explain about the definition of motivation. Motivation is an internal state of the workers that activates the behavior and gives its direction. It can also be defined as the desire and wants that energize someone or workers to make things happen even if they need to face obstacles. Moreover, motivation influences the needs and desire on the intensity and direction of behavior. Intensity here means how hard does a person work to form a chosen behavior, and direction explains about which behavior does a person choose to perform. Then, moving on to the next part, which is efforts that need to be done by the company to increase employees' motivation. The first company efforts is by giving social benefits. These social benefits or employee benefits package may include overtime, medical insurance, vacation, profit sharing, and also retirement benefits. The next point, which is giving reward to employee, includes express thanks with a public thank you, offer time off, or give small gifts to the employees. Not only that, to increase employees' motivation, the company should include ethical standards, which include obeying the company's rule, effective communication, taking responsibility, trust, and mutual respect for your colleagues at workplace. The last point should be giving training to improve efficiency and productivity of employees. Well-trained employees show both quantity and quality performance. The next subtopic that are going to be presented is challenges of motivating employees. There are three main points that need to be focused on, which is revised employment relationship, flatter organizations, and changing workforce. As for employment relationship, it is a legal link between employers and employees that should be done because of globalizations, information technology, and corporate restructuring. It might tend to undermine trust and also commitment to the employees. Okay, then moving on to the second point, which is flatter organizations. A flat organization refers to an organization structure with few or no levels of management between management and staff level employees. Because of that, there are fewer supervisors to monitor the performance and reduce the cost. The last point would be changing workforce. Changes in the workforce means that the employer may need to adapt their recruitment, training, and management process, so that will bring challenges to the employers because different people and different employees brings different expectations. Okay, we will move deeper to the needs-based theories that consists of four theories, which is Maslow hierarchy of needs, ERG, McClellan learned needs, and innate human drives. The first one is Maslow's hierarchy of needs that captures 7 categories most needed, but there are only 5 categories that is placed in the hierarchy. This hierarchy starts with the basic needs, then the security matters, and move into a more complex human needs, which is physiological, safety, affections and belongingness, esteem, and the last one is self-actualization. Second theory is ERG that stands for existence, relatedness, and growth by Aldifer. A needs hierarchy theory consists of 3 instinctive needs as mentioned before, which is existence, relatedness, and growth. Growth explains about the desire for continued personal growth and development, and relatedness is related to the interpersonal relationship. Then the last is existence, that is talking about the physiological and material well-being. About learned needs theory by McClellan, it consists of 3 needs, which is need for achievement, need for affiliation, and need for power. People having this need have certain ways of dealing with their job, so as for achievement, they perform better than others, affiliation, interpersonal relationship, and communicate frequently, and the last one is power, which is personal prestige. Managers can motivate employees by knowing what kind of needs they have and provide them with a job that matches their needs. Okay, the last theory would be innate human drives that have 4 drive theory, which is acquire and achieve, bond and belong, create and challenge, and the last one is defend and define. A motivation theory based on innate drive to acquire, bond, learn, and defend incorporates both, which is emotions and rationality. Okay, I will explain more about the 4 drive that starts with drive to acquire. It is the need to take or keep objects and also experiences that is basis of hierarchy and status. Then drive to bond, which is need to form relationship and social commitments, basis of social identity, and moving on to drive to learn, the needs to satisfy curiosity and resolve conflicting information, basis of self-actualization. And the last one is drive to defend, that needs to protect ourselves. It is a reactive drive and it is a fight basis.
Thank you to the previous presenter. Moving on to the next main point, which is motivation process theories. It was a process theory about the work motivation focused on how the workers make choice among all other alternative behavior and their level of effort. It was about what people expect to get the outcome. It can be further understood by expectancy theory of motivation, which can be divided by 3 related flow versus the effort, followed by the performance, and lastly the outcome. As example, by providing training to employees efficiently, it can increase effort to performance expectancy, and by explaining how reward can be linked to the past performance can increase performance to outcome balances, and by ensure employee got their reward, it can boost employees to do better. Next is organizational justice component. Next is organization justice component. It can be divided into 2, which is distributive justice and procedural justice. But first, let's look what is organizational justice. It was referred to the fairness in treatment of employees in organization who make judgment based on their leader action. So there are two. Firstly, distributive justice. It relates to needs equity. So there are 2 of it. Firstly, distributive justice. It relates to needs equity and equality by having a fairness in outcome. Example, I got a deserved payment for my task. Next is procedural justice. It's related to fairness in decision making by employee have their right to involve in decision making by no person of group being discriminated. There are equity element in the distributive justice. It remains as the most common distributive rule. The equity element in the distributive justice, it remains as the most common distributive rule. The equity principle has been applied, such as everyone in the group should receive the same outcome. Those with greatest need should receive more outcome than others with less need. People should be paid in proportion to their contribution. The outcome and input ratio. The input is what employee contribute, such as their effort and skill to get the output, which is a pay and promotion. Second is comparison other. An employee from the organization comparing their input and output with another person who had the same job but in other organization. As example, food panda rider comparing their job to grab food rider. Thirdly was the equity evaluation. When people develop feeling equity and inequity by comparing their own outcome and input ratio with the comparison other ratio. Next is over reward versus under reward inequity. Over reward was the input is the same with reference but the outcome was higher than reference. Under reward, where the input is the same with reference but the outcome was lower than reference. Lastly is the type of reward in workplace. There are 4, which is membership and seniority, job status, competency, and performance based. For membership seniority based reward, it was a fixed wages and seniority increase. As for advantage, guaranteed wages may attract job applicant, and disadvantage doesn't motivate job performance. Second is job status-based reward. This includes job evaluation and status perk. For advantage, it motivates competition for promotion, and disadvantage, it focuses employee on job, not the customer. Third is competency-based reward. Its pay increase with competency acquired and demonstrated. Skill-based pay increase with skill module and learn. For the advantage, more flexible workforce, better quality, consistent with employability. Disadvantage, potentially subjective and higher in training costs. Performance-based reward is based on three, which is individual reward, team reward, and organizational reward. For the first individual, it was in bonus, commission, and base rate form. For team reward, it was bonus and gain sharing, and organizational reward, it informed in profit sharing, stock ownership, stock option, and balance scorecard. Thank you.
So I will present to you the topic 6. Okay, topic 6 is talking about the work-related stress and the management of stress. So firstly, under this topic, we will learn about the two types of stress: the gas model, stresses, consequences of stress, and also the management of stress. So what is stress? Stress can be defined as feelings of tense, anxious, and worried regarding a certain situation. This can also be defined as an adaptive response of a person towards a stressful situation that is challenging or threatening them. So there are two types of stress, which is eustress and distress. Eustress is a stress that is necessarily needed for the person in order to motivate them to work toward the attainment of goal to succeed in life. The distress is a negative situation or experience of the persons towards a stressful situation that will negatively affect their behavioral, physiological, and psychological. The gas syndrome or general adaptation syndrome is a model that is developed by Hanselier that found that human has fairly consistent and automatical physiological response towards a stressful situation. This can help them to cope with the environmental demand and stressful situation. There are three stages, which is alarm reaction, resistance, and exhaustion. Under alarm reaction, when a person is facing a stressful situation, it will negatively affects their energy level and negatively affect how they cope with the stressful situation due to they are in shock. And next is resistance. When they are facing the stressful situations, the biochemical and physiological and behavioral will be activated in order to help them to cope with the stressful situation. This can be seen in the case where when a person is prolonged to a long-term stress situation, their body will react negatively to them, such as they will fall sick. And the last one is the exhaustion stage. The exhaustion state happens when as person has limited capability of resistance. Therefore, when a person it will increase the risk of getting long-term physiological and sociological negative effect. This can be seen in the case of job burnout of an employee. Stresses is the causes of our stress. There are many types of stresses that heavily affect our daily lives and body. Among the stresses are interpersonal stresses, task control stresses, role-related stresses, organizational and physical environment stresses, and non-work stresses. Stress has give many negative effects towards our daily lives and also our body. The consequences of stress can be categorized into three, which is physiological, behavioral, and psychological. Physiological is when the stress has led us to getting exposed to the high risk of getting illnesses such as hypertension, digestion problems, blood pressure, and so on. The next one is the behavioral. Behavioral is when our behavior is greatly affected due to the stress such as depleted work performance, temperament, and so on. And lastly, the psychological is when our emotional aspects has been negatively affects as well due to the stress such as we become moody, mood swings, and temperament, and so on. Lastly is to manage the stress. There are many ways that we can do to manage the stress. First one is by removing the stresses, which we can done by investigating the causes of the stresses that make us stress, and then making changes in order to ensure that it will not stressing us at the end. And the next one is to change the self-perception of stress. It can be done when we change the perceptions of the stress to from negative to positive, which when we are facing stress situation, rather than getting angry or any negative feeling, we can also change it towards a positive attitude such as humor. Next is by controlling the stress management. This can be done by practicing healthy lifestyle or exercise in order to control our stress. And lastly, receive support from the family and friends. This can be done by when we are stressing, we can share with our family and friends what that causes stress, and receive moral support from them in order to motivate us to cope with the stress.
We'll talk about chapter 7, which are team. So, team can be defined as a group of 2 or more people that exist to fulfill a purpose and independent to interact and influence each other. It also can be defined as mutually accountable for achieving common goal and perceive themselves as a social entity. Next, we will talk about type of team and informal group. So, there are many types of team, which are permanent team, temporary team, informal or formal group, and self-directed team. So, permanent team is a team that exists within a formal organizational structure for the purpose of long-term mission related to work of the agency, but there is not itself a formal organizational unit. Meanwhile, temporary team is they will lose their importance once the task is done. Next, informal and formal group are formulated when 2 or more members of an organization are assembled by the management with the purpose of achieving a specific goal. After that, self-directed team are a group of employees who manage themselves and their work. Lastly, virtual team is a group of people who interact to electronic communication. Next, why informal group exists? Informal group is group that exists primarily for benefit of their members. They exist because to innovate drive to bond, social identity where we define ourselves by group membership, and have a goal accomplishment and emotional support. The advantage of team. So, the first advantage is it can be made better decision because everyone involved in the process of making product or service. And the second advantage is everyone will have better information sharing rather than work as alone. So, first disadvantage of team is individual will work faster on some tasks than everyone, and it's hard to have better decision. Then, the second disadvantage is process losses because of developing and maintaining team. Then, the third disadvantage is social looping, where the problem that occur when people accept less effort, usually perform a lower level when working in team than when working alone. How to minimize social looping? Social looping can be minimized with make individual performance more visible, like form smaller team, give specialized tasks, and measure individual performance. Then, the second way is increase employee motivation with increase their job enrichment and selling only motivate employees. The meaning of team effectiveness is it exists to serve organizational purpose. There are 4 team effectiveness models, which are organizational and team environment, team design, team processes, and team effectiveness. There are 5 sets of team member competencies. First 5 sets of team member competencies is cooperating where resources need to share. Second is coordinating where work need to be aligned with others. The third competency is communicating which information need to share freely and efficiently. Fourth competency is comforting where we need to show empathy, and last competency is conflict resolving where we need to use best conflict handling style. There are 5 stages of team processes. The first one is forming, the second one is storming, the third one is norming, and the fourth one is performing. The last stage of team processes is adjourning, where the existing team might recruit back to an earlier stage of development. Next, I will talk about team building and type of team building. Team building is formal activities intended to improve the team development and function, where activities and programs initiated for the team members. There are 4 types of team building, which are clarify team performance goal, improve team problem solving skill, improve role definition, and improve relation.
So I will continue with team norm. Team norm is informal rule and shared expectation to establish the member behavior. There are 3 norms developed through, which are initial team's experience, critical event in team history, and experience value member brings to the team. Why we need prevent team from changing these functional team norms? First is state desired norm when forming teams. Select member with preferred value. Discuss counterproductive norms and disband team with dysfunctional norms. Next, I will discuss about team cohesion. Team cohesion is the degree of iteration people feel toward the members and their motivation to remain member. They are both cognitive and emotional process related to the team's members' social experience. There are few factors that influence on team cohesion, which are member similarity, team size, member interactions, somewhere difficult entry, team success, and last but not least, external challenge. What we get from team cohesion is motivate to remain as a member, willing to share any information, strong interpersonal bond, resolve conflict effectively, and better interpersonal relationships. So I will continue with trust defined is the positive expectation one person has in another person that involving risk. These trusts have 3 levels, which are from the lower level is calculus-based trust, second level is knowledge-based trust, and third level, the high level, is identification-based trust. So I will talk about self-directed team defines. This is cross-functional work group organized around work process that complete an entire piece of work, requires several independent tasks, and that has to be some substantial autonomy over execution of those tasks. Next, factor that affect self-directed team success is responsible for entire work process, low interdependence with other teams, autonomy to organize and or coordinate work, technology support teams communications and coordinated. So I will talk about next. I will talk about virtual teams. What is virtual teams? Virtual teams is team whose members operate across space, time, and organizational boundaries that are linked with information technology to achieve organizational tasks. This can increase possible because of information technologies, knowledge-based work, and increasing necessary because of organizational learning and globalizations. Okay, the factor that involved in virtual team success is member characteristic, which are we need the technology savvy, self-leadership skill, emotional intelligence. Besides that, flexible use of communication technology and opportunities to meet face-to-face. Besides that, I will talk about team decision-making constraints, which are there are four points, which are time constraint, evaluation expressions, peer pressure to confirm, and group think. Next is general guideline for team decision, which are team norms should encourage critical thinking. Next is sufficient team diversity, ensure neither leader nor any members dominates, maintain optimal team size, and introduce effective team struggle. Next, we will discuss about technique to improve team effectiveness. First is constructive conflict, where this is to allow conflict that focus on tasks rather on people. For example, a people focus their discussion on the issue while maintaining the respectfulness for others having different point of view. Second is rule of brainstorming, which as you can speak freely, don't criticize other idea, provide as many ideas as possible that you have in your mind, and last is build other idea. For brainstorming, they are evaluate evaluate brainstorming, which are strengths and weakness. For strength, they are for produce more creative ideas, strength decision acceptance and team cohesiveness, sharing positive emotion and encourage creativity. For the weakness is production blocking still exists and evaluation expression exists in many groups. Third is electronic brainstorming, which relies on network computer to submit and share creative idea. The strength of this electronic brainstorming is more creative idea, minimal productions, blocking, evaluation, impression, or conformity problem. But they have the limitation, which is too structured and technology bound. Okay, last is nominal group technique, which are the kind of brainstorming consisted of 3 stages, which silently independently document their idea, collective describe this idea to other member without critique, silently and independently evaluate the idea presented. So this is a example of nominal group technique. That's all from us. Thank you.